Here's the Jeep Compass that I'm working on. And this vehicle has an awful noise coming from the engine compartment. You speed it up, slow it down, and the noise changes, but it's a terrible noise coming from the belt and pulley area. So actually I'm thinking it might be the idler pulley might be the problem. So that's what I'm heading in to do some work on. Also, right at the last minute, in the last 10 kilometers, the alternator light came on. So the charging system has died just in the last minute too. So, well, we'll see what we can do to figure out what the problem is. Well, now I'm kind of getting the idea that maybe the noise might not be the belt tensioner and idlers, because they spin pretty good. They seem to be okay. But the alternator has an overrunning pulley on it designed to turn in one direction and not the other, and there's a little bit of rust on the front of the alternator. So I'm beginning to think that I might have to pull all of this system out, take the alternator out, and then replace the overrunning clutch pulley on the front of the alternator. So one of the first steps I want to do, so that I don't cause an electrical fire or a short or a burnout of some particular unit, is I've got to get at the battery. And it's got this cover on it. That was easy. Get off. And obviously the battery needs some cleaning. Well, no, it needs a lot of cleaning. For now, I'm going to remove one of the connections just so I don't have any electrical hookups going on in this vehicle. Well, here we are underneath, and the first thing to take off is this plastic shield held on by various fasteners. So there, I already had that one part way out, but there's another one up at the front, and there's a couple more here. I'm not sure how you're supposed to get these off, but as far as I can tell, the center piece, whoops, okay, that's not what was supposed to happen. I just cut it off, but it looks like the centerpiece pops out, and it's some kind of an expanding plug. So here's what all those little clips are supposed to look like. So if you get the clip out correctly, it's a plug that's expanding this plastic expansion plug. So I've got about half of them that are still good, and the other half are broken, so I'll have to figure out something to hold all these plastic bits on later. Well, I don't really know if you have to do this, but I took off the inner fender because I wanted to have better access with the camera. And now I've got a little more access to seeing what's going on in here. And I should be able to get a little better video while I'm working. Okay, I'm underneath it right now. I'm looking up, and I'm looking at the idler pulleys and the tensioner up there. We see this? Kind of. Anyway, they're spinning freely. Not even any grinding noise. Nothing. So let's see if we can see anything from the top. It's a very small space to work in. So down on the right hand side is the alternator pulley and the clutch, which is what's wrecked. And then we've got an idler pulley up top there. Of course, there's the power steering. And then you've got an idler pulley in the center down there at the bottom, and then a tensioner pulley. I have already spun them all, except for the alternator. It grinds a little bit, but the idlers and the tensioners are all free. I'm not buying new pieces for that, and I'm not buying a belt. Here's the bottom idler. Spins nice. So I'm using a 15mm wrench. I cracked the bolt loose while the camera was off because I needed two hands. And now I've just about got the threads out. There we go. So there's the bottom idler, where it goes there. And now I can get at the bottom bolt for the alternator too. So you have to take that one out. I found that it was a little smarter to just remove both water reservoirs, the overflow and the windshield wiper fluid, because it makes it easier to get at these two bolts on the receiver dryer. So here's the first bolt holding on the air conditioning compressor. I'm using a 3/8 ratchet with a 13mm socket, and on the bottom of the air conditioning compressor is another one. So we'll take that out. The third bolt that holds on the air conditioning compressor is on the inside, well, the inner, and it's way up there. And again, 13mm. So I'm going to take that out, and then at least the air conditioning compressor should be able to be wiggled. So there you go, only 3 bolts. By the way, if you're worried, they're all identical. So you can take them out and you're not worried about mixing them up. But you can see, I'm sure hoping it gets me a lot more space. I might have to take this bracket off down here later, I don't know. But certainly the air conditioning compressor moves a lot. This piece here is good to loosen because it's connected directly to the air conditioning compressor, and it's nice to have as much movement as possible. I know there's an electrical connection under there, and you can see that on both sides of the plug I'm going to have to get in there with a little screwdriver and move the clips so that I can pop that off. So here's that alternator bolt, alternator pivot, and it's got a 16mm socket that you have to put on it to loosen. And this is kind of the reason why I've taken out the air conditioner and moved a lot of stuff out of the way so I can get at this one. So let's see. Oh, great. Okay. I need a shallow socket, not a deep socket. Okay, there's also a bolt, a small bolt up the top of the alternator. So I'm going to take this one out. Looks like another one of those 13mm heads. Okay, this one I found looks like a 6-inch at least extension. Helped me out a lot better than trying to do it with a wrench or a short stubby socket. When you go to take the alternator out, be sure to take off all the wires off the back first. So I already loosened that one. That's 1/2 inch or 13mm. And take this off. And then here is your clip that's going to be very torturous. You need to pop that red plastic retainer out first. So a little screwdriver in the crack there, and you could even pop that red piece right out. It doesn't matter, but this clip is not coming off the back of the alternator until you get that red clip out of there. After I got those 2 alternator bolts out, that's all that was holding it, except a lot of friction. So just got a screwdriver in behind here, and I'm prying this away from the block of the engine. And it's coming. I just used both hands and removed that. So now the alternator's loose, but it's up in behind the frame, the block, the air conditioning, and probably an awful lot of other annoying things. I apologize for not being able to show you while I took that out, because it took both my arms and hands twisting and turning. It actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but you couldn't do that and hold the camera at the same time. Now the problem with this alternator is that this overrunning clutch is not working. It's actually seized in both directions. So that probably was causing some noise earlier, but that's not the biggest problem. I thought maybe I'd be able to buy the kit and replace this clutch assembly and put the alternator back in. But when I'm looking through the cracks, I don't know if you can see this, but if I'm looking through the cracks here in the alternator, there are all kinds of broken bits. Oh, there, I might be able to see. Right inside, it's exploded right apart. Not working at all. So there's no way that I can just replace the clutch. So it's been throwing a lot of rust here for, who knows, a year or more from the overrunning clutch. But definitely it's blown this alternator right to bits on the inside. Amazingly, it still rotates. But that's because it ripped everything apart on the inside. Time to buy a new one. What is it? Is there any indication there about size? It's probably the standard 150. Oh, there it is. 115 amps. 115 HS. Here's the new rebuilt alternator alongside of the old one. So I've got the same part. In order to show how this pulley works, I need to put a screwdriver in here to stop it from rotating. So I can hold the camera here. Now, if I turn this way, I'm turning clockwise and it doesn't want to turn because it's locked up. That's the direction that the engine would rotate the alternator, and of course it should lock up and it should turn it. But if I turn it the other way, it just spins. It's not freewheeling totally. It's like there's a bit of friction on it, but it's not a rough friction. It's just a smooth, constant friction. So it doesn't turn one way, and it does the other way. Time to put the bracket back in that holds on the air conditioning. Believe me, that bracket was worth taking out of there. It's only 3 bolts, they're very easy, and it definitely provides you with a lot more access space. And now comes the 3 bolts that hold in the alternator. I'm just going to show this little connection on the air conditioning compressor again, just so you see how it goes in. It's in a tight spot, but it can be done after you put the compressor on, or if you want, you can put the connection on just before you put the bolts in. Here's the way I loosened off the idler pulley. I just put 2 wrenches together and was able to put the belt on that way. Just make sure you follow the schematics. You can find them on the internet. Now, the other thing you have to watch out for is, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that belt? It looks like it's on from the top, but from the bottom, where I'm shooting the video right here underneath, that belt is not on. It's off by 1 groove. And if you have a belt off by one of those grooves anywhere in the circuit, you're going to cause problems. You might throw the belt, rip a pulley. Certainly you'll be buying some more parts. So you want to make sure it's all set up correctly before you go and crank the vehicle over. Now at the beginning of the video you saw me break a bunch of these clips when I was taking off the inner fenders. So I got to figure out what to do to hold on all of the pieces. So what I've done is I've got these speed clips, probably bigger than I needed, but I had them, and they'll use a bolt so they fit into those holes, and I may have to use a washer, but I put them in wherever I could, and I still have some of the original plastic ones left, and so I'll have everything all working properly and held together. Boy, is that ever quiet compared to before. Sounds pretty good. So there you have it, folks. I appreciate you watching my video. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Hey, it's summertime. More videos to come.